Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are going to do a deep dive into some seriously cool science stories from 2024.
The kind that make you go, whoa, did that really happen?
Exactly. Keeping up with all the latest breakthroughs can feel like, well, trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yeah.
So consider this your cheat sheet to the stuff that really matters.
The stuff that'll make me the most interesting person at your next dinner party.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so we're talking about Notable Magazine's top 10 science stories of 2024.
Buckle up.
Where do we even begin?
So many cool things to talk about.
Okay, how about with something that literally everyone on Earth can relate to? The sky. 2024 was a year of some seriously epic sky shows.
It really was.
Wasn't it?
The Great North American Eclipse back in April
Oh, yeah.
cast its shadow across a huge swath of the continent.
I remember that.
And get this.
Yeah.
It provided scientists with the longest period of totality visible from land in over a decade.
So they must have been freaking out.
In a good way.
In a good way, yeah. So that means they were able to gather tons of data about solar activity.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the scientists who got in on the action.
Oh, really?
There were tons of citizen scientists who got involved too,
That's awesome.
helping to collect data and find those models of the sun.
I love that.
It was just a great example of how science can bring people together.
Yeah, totally. It's like we all looked up at the same time and we were just in awe of this celestial event.
Yeah.
And the eclipse wasn't the only thing lighting up the sky in 2024.
Oh, no.
Was it?
The auroras were just off the charts in 2024.
I saw some amazing pictures on social media.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And there's a really interesting story behind that.
Oh, yeah.
It all comes down to the sun,
Mm-hmm.
reaching its 11-year solar maximum.
Okay.
But here's the twist.
What's that?
Despite having fewer sunspots than usual,
Okay.
the sun threw some seriously massive flares our way.
Oh, wow.
We're talking the biggest solar storm in over 20 years.
So even when the sun is supposedly chilling out, it
Yeah.
can still throw a cosmic tantrum.
Exactly. And it just goes to show how much we still have to learn about our very own star.
Yeah, it's kind of humbling, isn't it? Thinking about how much we don't know about this giant ball of fire that sustains life on Earth.
Absolutely.
So speaking of things that are awe-inspiring and a bit mysterious, how about the human brain?
Oh, yes.
In 2024, scientists achieved something truly groundbreaking.
They did,
They created a complete connectome of a fruit fly brain.
right?
Now I feel like I need a little refresher.
Sure.
What exactly is a connectome again?
Think of it as like a super detailed roadmap of all the neural connections in a brain,
Okay.
every single neuron and how they talk to each other.
Okay.
Basically, the wiring diagram of the brain.
So we're talking about a fruit fly's brain, right?
Right.
These things are tiny.
Yeah, they are tiny, but their brains are still incredibly complex.
Really?
We're talking about 140,000 neurons.
Wow.
So mapping all of those connections
Yeah.
is no easy feat.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's a monumental achievement.
So what does this mean for us humans? I mean, our brains are way more complicated than a fruit fly's.
Oh, absolutely. The human brain has over 80 billion neurons. But here's the thing. This fruit fly connectome is like a Rosetta Stone for understanding how brains work.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's a proof of concept that one day we might be able to map the entire human brain,
Oh, wow.
which would be truly revolutionary.
Can you imagine being able to see the physical structure of thought
Uh-huh.
or emotion or memory?
Exactly. Think about all the possibilities for treating mental illnesses,
Yeah.
for understanding consciousness,
Mm.
or even developing truly intelligent AI.
It's mind-blowing.
This is a huge step towards unraveling those mysteries of the brain.
Okay, so we've talked about the wonders of the universe, the
Mm.
mysteries of the brain.
Uh-huh.
But let's get back down to Earth for a minute.
Okay.
Because 2024 was a year of some pretty stark reminders about the state of our planet, wasn't it?
It was.
Climate change really took center stage in a way that felt
Scary.
kind of scary.
Yeah, there's no sugarcoating it.
Yeah,
2024 was a wake-up call
yeah.
for a lot of people.
Yeah, it felt like we were constantly bombarded with news about extreme weather events.
Right.
You know, I remember reading about the fourth global coral bleaching event,
Uh-huh.
supercharged hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico, and
Yeah.
these devastating floods in Spain.
Right.
It felt like a preview of what's to come if we don't get our act together.
And it's not just the weather.
Right.
There was that really disappointing report about how carbon dioxide emissions, which seemed to be leveling off,
Yeah.
actually went up again in 2024.
That's so frustrating.
It is, and current policies
Hmm.
just aren't enough to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement.
So are we basically on track for that 2.7 degrees Celsius warmer world by 2100?
It's not looking good.
That's a pretty grim outlook.
It is,
It is.
but there are some glimmers of hope.
Oh, good.
The Inflation Reduction Act in the U.S.
Okay.
started to pump some serious money into clean energy initiatives.
Okay, good.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that does give me a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
What about methane emissions? Weren't there some major developments on that front?
Definitely, there was a big push to track methane emissions more accurately.
Okay.
And the findings were pretty shocking, to be honest.
Oh, no.
Like, for example, one study revealed that methane emissions from U.S. oil and gas production were 3 times higher than government estimates.
3 times higher?
Yeah.
That's a huge discrepancy.
It is.
Wow.
And then there was that massive methane blowout in Kazakhstan.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
Which lasted for over 6 months.
Jeez.
Releasing just an unbelievable amount of this potent greenhouse gas into the atmosphere.
It's a powerful one, too.
It is.
Okay, so it sounds like we're making some progress on clean energy, but we still have a long way to go when it comes to tackling methane emissions.
That's a good way to put it.
It's a complex issue with no easy solutions.
It is.
Well, on that somewhat depressing note,
Yeah.
let's shift gears to a topic that hits a little closer to home.
Okay. Literally our health, right? Specifically Alzheimer's disease, which affects millions of people worldwide. It does. Were there any significant breakthroughs in 2024 that give us hope in the fight against this devastating disease? There were some really exciting developments in Alzheimer's research in 2024.
Oh, good.
Particularly in the area of early diagnosis.
Okay.
Several research groups made huge strides towards developing a simple, affordable blood test.
Oh, wow.
That could detect Alzheimer's early on.
That's amazing because I know early diagnosis is key to managing Alzheimer's, but right now the diagnostic process is pretty invasive and expensive.
Exactly. A simple blood test would be a game changer.
Totally.
And get this, the UK's Blood Biomarker Challenge is aiming to make routine blood tests for dementia part of their healthcare system.
Wow.
Within the next 5 years.
That would be revolutionary.
It would.
So it sounds like we're getting closer to being able to detect Alzheimer's early on. But what about treatments?
Right?
Are there any promising new drugs on the horizon?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
There were 2 new drugs approved by the FDA
in
2024 and 2023.
Okay.
Donanemab and lecanemab.
Okay.
These are monoclonal antibodies that target the buildup of amyloid protein in the brain, which is a hallmark of Alzheimer's.
So these drugs are designed to actually slow down the progression of the disease.
They are.
That's incredible.
Right now, they're only approved for people who've already been diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Okay.
But trials are underway to see if these drugs could actually prevent the disease in high-risk individuals who don't yet have symptoms.
Oh, wow.
We'll have to wait about 4 years for those results.
Okay.
But in the meantime, a 2024 Lancet report highlighted over a dozen simple actions that have been proven to help prevent or delay dementia.
Really? Like what?
Things like wearing hearing aids,
Okay.
managing cholesterol, getting regular exercise.
Okay.
These things can make a real difference.
So it's a combination of medical breakthroughs and healthy lifestyle choices.
That's right.
That's empowering in a way.
It is.
It means we're not just passively waiting for a cure.
Right.
We can actually take steps to protect our brains.
Exactly.
Wow.
And as the global population ages, this research is becoming more and more critical.
For sure. Okay, so we've talked about the brain climate change and Alzheimer's. Let's move on to a problem that feels downright overwhelming.
Yeah.
The global plastic crisis.
Right.
You know, the fact that we're drowning in plastic.
We are.
Did anything happen in 2024 that gives us hope that we might actually be able to turn the tide on this environmental disaster?
Well, the UN made a big push for an international treaty to end plastic pollution.
Okay.
It was a major initiative that aimed to get countries all over the world on the same page about reducing plastic production, improving recycling, and developing more sustainable alternatives.
That sounds promising.
It does.
Did they manage to reach an agreement?
Unfortunately, no.
Oh,
They didn't reach a final agreement by the end of 2024.
That's disappointing, but the problem isn't going away, is it?
No.
I mean, we're talking about trillions of pieces of plastic polluting our oceans, our land, even our bodies.
You're right.
It's crazy.
The statistics are pretty mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Did you know that we've accumulated a staggering 8 gigatons of plastic on Earth?
No, I did not.
That's twice the weight of animal life combined.
Whoa, that's insane. I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize it was that bad. It's like plastic is taking over the planet.
It kind of feels that way sometimes, but there is some good news.
Okay, what's that?
While the UN treaty negotiations didn't result in a final agreement, they did spark a lot of research and innovation in the field of plastic alternatives.
Oh, okay.
So scientists are working on developing new types of biodegradable plastics.
Oh, that's good.
Exploring the use of fungi and bacteria to break down plastic waste.
Interesting.
And coming up with better ways to recycle the plastic we already have.
So there's still hope that we might be able to solve this problem.
There is one of the scientists involved in the treaty discussions.
Okay.
Richard Thompson summed it up really well.
What did he say?
He said there is no silver bullet for the plastic problem, but there is a silver buckshot.
I like that silver buckshot.
Yeah.
It's a hopeful way of looking at a really daunting problem.
It is, and it's a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, human ingenuity and collaboration can still prevail.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. The wonders of the cosmos, the complexities of the brain,
Right.
the urgency of addressing climate change, the challenges of Alzheimer's disease,
Right.
and the global plastic crisis.
Yes.
It's been a pretty intense journey so far.
It has.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
there's one more topic we need to talk about, and it's something that's changing the world at an incredibly rapid pace.
What's that?
Artificial intelligence.
AI.
Or AI.
2024 was a pivotal year for AI, wasn't it?
It really was.
It felt like these large language models, like ChatGPT, went from being a novelty to something that could actually do real work. Even outperform humans in certain tasks.
It was kind of freaky, to be honest.
It was.
I remember reading about how some of these AI models achieved medal-worthy scores in the Math Olympiad.
Right.
And even outperformed science PhDs in their own fields.
Right.
It's like, are the robots taking over?
A lot of people were asking that question.
I bet.
But here's the thing. AI is a tool.
Okay.
And like any tool, it could be used for good or for bad.
True.
The key is to make sure we're developing and using AI responsibly and ethically.
I think that's going to be the big challenge moving forward.
It is.
Isn't it?
It is.
But even if we can agree on how to use AI ethically, there's still the issue of its environment and impact.
Right.
You know, these massive AI models require a ton of computing power, which translates to a lot of energy consumption.
You're absolutely right. That's one of the big challenges with AI right now.
Yeah.
Its energy and water footprint.
Huge.
Data scientist Jacob Krauss even called it an industrial-scale challenge for power supply.
Oh, wow.
And some big tech companies are even turning to nuclear power to meet their AI energy needs.
Nuclear power, that's a pretty drastic measure. It feels like we're trading one environmental problem for another.
It's definitely a trade-off.
Yeah.
And one that's sparking a lot of debate.
I bet.
But it just goes to show how much energy these AI models consume.
Well, it's clear that AI is here to stay, and it's going to continue to have a profound impact on our lives.
It is.
But it's up to us to make sure we're using this powerful technology wisely and responsibly.
I completely agree. We need to be thinking about the ethical implications of AI, as well as its environmental impact. And we need to make sure that we're using it to benefit humanity, not just to make a quick buck.
Well said. So on that note, let's take a break and come back for part 2 of our deep dive into the top science stories of 2024.
Sounds good.
We'll be exploring everything from the troubled state of our planet's waters to the ongoing quest for extraterrestrial life.
That's right.
So don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're picking up our exploration of 2024's most impactful science stories.
You know, after all that talk about AI and its energy consumption, it makes me think about another resource that's becoming increasingly precious, water.
Right, water.
Did anything happen in 2024 that gives us hope that we might actually be able to turn the tide on the challenges facing our planet's water systems? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. The UN released a series of reports back in August of 2024 that painted a pretty alarming picture of what's happening to our rivers.
Oh, no.
The reports revealed some major changes in water distribution quantity and quality.
Give me the bad news. How bad is it really?
Well, one of the most startling findings was that river flow has decreased in a whopping 402 basins worldwide.
That's a lot.
To put that in perspective, that's 5 times the number of shrinking rivers documented just 15 years ago.
Wow, that's a huge jump. It's like our rivers are slowly drying up before our eyes.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of pollution, which adds another layer of complexity.
Of course.
A 2024 research paper found that around 1,000 out of 10,000 global river basins are struggling because they simply don't have enough water.
Okay.
But when you factor in nitrogen pollution, which mostly comes from agricultural runoff, that number more than doubles to 2,500.
So we're essentially talking about a double whammy for our freshwater resources.
Right.
Not enough water, and the water we do have is often polluted.
Exactly. It's a recipe for disaster, and it highlights the urgent need for better water management strategies worldwide.
For sure.
We need to find ways to conserve water, reduce pollution, and ensure that this essential resource is available for future generations.
It's a reminder that everything is connected, isn't it? The health of our planet is directly tied to our own health and well-being.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And speaking of health, let's delve into another pressing issue that made headlines in 2024. The spread of infectious diseases.
Okay, this is where things start to get a little scary, right? I remember reading about some pretty alarming outbreaks.
There were some worrisome trends, that's for sure. One of the biggest concerns was the resurgence of the mosquito-borne dengue virus.
Dengue?
It reached record levels worldwide,
Really?
hitting the Americans especially hard.
I remember seeing those reports. Wasn't it something like double the number of cases compared to the previous year?
You're right on the money. Over 12 million cases were reported in the Americas alone, which is 3 to 4 times the 5-year average.
Wow.
It was a massive increase, and it left even the experts scratching their heads.
So what's the deal with this sudden surge in dengue cases? Do scientists have any theories about what's driving it?
That's the million-dollar question. Even top infectious disease specialists were baffled.
Really?
One of them, Scott Weaver from the University of Texas Medical Branch, even said, "I'm worried that we don't understand what's going on."
That's not exactly reassuring, is it?
Not really. It's a bit unsettling to think that we're dealing with an outbreak of this magnitude, and we're not even sure what's causing it, but there's a strong suspicion that climate change is playing a role.
Okay, how so?
As global temperatures rise, mosquitoes are able to thrive in new areas, expanding their range and potentially introducing diseases to regions that were previously unaffected.
So we're creating a more hospitable environment for disease-carrying mosquitoes. That's a scary thought.
It is, and it's not just dengue either. We're also seeing a rise in other mosquito-borne diseases like West Nile virus popping up in places like Europe, where they weren't common before.
It's like a domino effect with climate change setting off a chain reaction of negative consequences.
Exactly. But dengue wasn't the only infectious disease making headlines in 2024. Remember Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
The outbreak that started spreading globally back in 2022.
Wasn't it mainly confined to Central and West Africa before that?
That's right, but in 2022, it started popping up all over the world, spreading through human-to-human contact. And then in August 2024, there was a major outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Right.
This time, it was a more virulent and deadly form of the virus called Clade 1.
Oh, wow. And that first U.S. case appeared in November 2024, right?
You got it. It was declared a global health emergency, and it was a stark reminder that we're still vulnerable to these emerging infectious diseases.
Like we haven't learned our lesson from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, there were some efforts to improve global pandemic preparedness.
Okay.
The World Health Organization was working on a new pandemic response treaty, but unfortunately they couldn't reach an agreement in 2024.
So we're still not prepared for the next pandemic.
It seems that way, but let's not dwell on the negative. Let's turn our attention to something a bit more uplifting: space exploration.
Okay, I'm ready for some good news.
2024 was a big year for lunar missions with some pretty historic achievements.
Did we finally make contact with aliens?
Not quite, but there were some exciting developments for sure. We saw the first ever private company successfully land a craft on the moon.
Seriously? Which company was that?
It was a Texas-based company called Intuitive Machines.
Wow, that's amazing. It feels like we're entering a new era of space exploration where it's not just governments leading the charge.
I agree. And another exciting development was that Japan joined the ranks of spacefaring nations, becoming the 5th country to successfully land on the moon.
That's awesome. So we had a private company landing on the moon and Japan joining the Lunar Landing Club. What else happened?
Well, perhaps the most groundbreaking mission was China's Change 6.
Okay.
They managed to bring back the first ever rock samples from the far side of the moon.
Whoa, that's huge. I bet those samples are going to reveal all sorts of secrets about the moon's history.
They already have. The samples provided evidence of surprisingly recent volcanic activity, which challenges our previous assumptions about the moon's geology.
It's like the moon is constantly surprising us.
Exactly. As planetary geologist John Spray from the University of New Brunswick put it, after the Apollo missions, there was a feeling we'd been there, done that's with the moon. We now know that's not true. It's much more rich and varied. There's renewed excitement about what we can learn from the moon.
And with NASA planning to send humans back to the moon, starting with an orbital mission in 2025, it seems like we're on the cusp of a new golden age of lunar exploration.
It's a thrilling time to be following space exploration, that's for sure.
Speaking of thrilling, let's talk about something that's always captured our imaginations. The search for extraterrestrial life. Did 2024 bring us any closer to answering the age-old question? Are we alone in the universe?
Well, we didn't find any definitive proof of alien life, but there were some pretty intriguing clues.
Okay, spill the tea. What did we find?
In July 2024, NASA's Perseverance rover sent back some photos that caused quite a stir.
What was it?
They showed a Martian rock with leopard pattern spots.
Wait, leopard spots? On Mars? Are you serious?
I'm totally serious. These spots were a complete surprise to the scientists, and they're still trying to figure out what they mean.
So could these spots be a sign of ancient life on Mars?
It's a possibility. David Flannery, an astrobiologist on the Perseverance team, said, "These spots are a big surprise on Earth. These types of features in rocks are often associated with the fossilized record of microbes living in the subsurface."
So we might be looking at the remnants of an ancient Martian ecosystem. That's mind-blowing.
It is. And then it was another exciting discovery, a new exoplanet called Gliese 12b.
What's so special about this Gliese 12b? Is it full of little green men?
Not that we know of, but what makes Gliese 12b so interesting is that it's potentially habitable. It's just slightly larger and warmer than Earth, and it orbits a star that's similar to our sun.
So it's basically Earth 2.0.
It could be. And the best part is that it's relatively close, at least in astronomical terms. It's only 40 light years away, making it one of the closest Earth-like exoplanets we've discovered so far.
So while we haven't made contact with ET yet, it seems like we're getting closer to finding another planet that could support life as we know it.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be able to send a probe to Gliese 12b and see what we find.
You know, all this talk about exoplanets and the search for alien life reminds me of that Netflix show Three Body Problem. Remember that one?
Oh yeah, the one with the alien civilization and the chaotic climate caused by their three suns.
Exactly. It was such a wild ride, and it actually tied into a real-life scientific puzzle, didn't it? The whole three-body problem thing.
You're right. The show's title refers to a famous physics problem: how to predict the motion of three celestial objects when none of them dominates the other's orbits.
So it's like a cosmic dance with three partners who can't quite get their steps coordinated.
That's a great way to put it, but here's the exciting part. In 2024, mathematicians actually made some significant progress in finding less computationally intensive ways to calculate the outcomes of these chaotic systems.
So they're getting closer to cracking the code of the three-body problem.
They are. It's a testament to the power of human ingenuity and our insatiable curiosity.
And speaking of mysteries, what about that famous wow signal that everyone thought was an alien message? Did we ever figure out what that was all about?
Well, in August 2024, a report was published that proposed a more mundane explanation: a sudden brightening of a cold hydrogen cloud.
Oh, so no aliens after all.
It seems that way, but hey, sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one, and even though it wasn't aliens, it's still a fascinating scientific discovery.
Welcome back to the deep dive for the final part of our journey through the top science stories of 2024.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have eclipses, auroras, brain mapping, Alzheimer's, plastic pollution, the search for aliens. It's been quite a ride.
It's amazing how all these stories connect, isn't it?
Totally. It's like science is this giant web, and each discovery is a thread that weaves the tapestry of our understanding.
One story that really highlights this is the work on the three-body problem.
You mean that Netflix show?
Yeah, it was a great show.
It was.
But the three-body problem is also a real physics puzzle.
Right.
That stumped scientists for centuries.
Yeah, predicting the motion of three celestial objects when none dominates the other's orbits.
Exactly, like a cosmic game of billiards.
With way higher stakes, though.
For sure. And in 2024, mathematicians made some real progress in finding ways to calculate the outcomes of these chaotic systems.
So they're getting closer to solving this ancient mystery.
They are, and what's fascinating is the same math used to model the three-body problem can also be applied to other complex systems.
Like what?
Like climate change or financial markets.
Wow. So understanding how three stars dance around each other could help us predict things like hurricanes and stock market crashes.
It's possible. It shows how abstract scientific research can have real-world applications.
Sometimes the most groundbreaking discoveries come from exploring questions that seem purely theoretical.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder what other mysteries are waiting to be solved.
I think as we reflect on all these stories,
Yeah.
it's inspiring to see how much we're learning, but it's clear we face some serious challenges too.
Climate change, infectious diseases, the ethics of AI, it feels overwhelming at times.
But I'm optimistic.
I am too.
We have the knowledge, the tools, and the ingenuity to solve these problems.
We just need the collective will to act right.
Exactly. It's up to all of us to shape a better future.
I think that's what's so powerful about science. It gives us the power to understand the world and make informed decisions.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the top science stories of 2024.
We'll be back soon with more fascinating explorations.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.